nation! No donation, no salvation!
And remember, respect is everything.
Okay, sorry for the abrupt cut there. I realized my phone was starting to die because I am using my phone as a camera that I've been using for, what, like 2 years now? Anyway, so yeah, most of the times what I would do is this would be where the main body is. So again, I'm just using this as an example. I did mine on Sunstreaker a little differently, but like I said, I'm probably going to go back and fix that because car mode is more or less okay, but I feel like I could have done better. Not to mention the rear is way wider than the front, which the original idea was it was supposed to be like a body kit. So let me explain this for people who aren't car people. Most cars will normally be flush like this, where the wheels will line up with the fender wells. But if you're a person that likes to modify cars, what most people will do is they'll extend the bodywork, they'll add to it, which will in result make the car wider, and you know, it will allow you to put wider wheels or stance them out a little more. This is what a wide body essentially is. It makes the car wider for stability reasons, because the wider the car is, the less time it'll have you know, to flip over, and I think it's also for aerodynamics. And like I said, I'm not a mechanical engineer of any kind, so I'm just kind of giving you a rough idea of how that kind of stuff works. But anyway, let me grab that Eclipse for an example. So yeah, most cars will normally be flush, at least more recent vehicles anyway. If we're talking muscle cars, they're basically bricks on wheels. So, but cars with wide bodies will generally be much wider around the wheel area, and then will slim down and then get wider again when you get to the back. The idea that I was trying to do with Sunstreaker is I was trying to make it so that the actual car got wider as it went along, but again, I'm gonna probably redo most of this figure anyway, so just an example. But yeah, like I said, so your main body would be right here. This would be your entire roof section, which would be like one long strip, kind of like Sunstreaker's, and since he's a very flat car, it's a little easier to manage. But yeah, it would be something like this. Obviously not this complex or over the top, but like I said, I'm gonna redo this figure. And then over here would be your head. Now the head, that's another thing you got to worry about. Because I do like to go for a more cartoonish style with the heads, they may stick out, or what you also may want to do is slim them down enough to where it'll fit in that cavity. Because there is a massive cavity there that's also supposed to be for the real windshield. Like I said, structurally these things are a lot more challenging because I decided to try and make Sunstreaker's head more accurate. But again, depending on your head design and how your figures are going to work is what will determine how much of your head will be left over if you're going to go for this style of transformation. What you could also do, if you're not going to do this head design, then you're golden, because then it'll just fold down in there. But if you do this head design, you could also just strip the sides and only use that piece. It will look a little nasty because it's not flush, it's just kind of, it's got all those holes, but you will be able to fold it in. But again, your clearance and your mileage will vary on that one as well, because again, it all depends on how your character is going to look and what the vehicle is supposed to be. Again, I'm using pre-made characters that I'm familiar with because I'm a G1er, when I have no right to be, because I'm like 23. By the way, thanks for wishing me all the happy birthday wishes. To those who actually did wish me a happy birthday on the 500 subscriber special, because that's when I uploaded it. But anyway, that's irrelevant. But yeah, that's one way you could do it. But I'm not going to do it that way because I want the head to look like Sunstreaker. But again, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Like I said, the ball joints are good for articulation, but when you put too much weight on them, you know, you get, you know, this action. So it's, again, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Aside from that, there's really not much else to talk about in regards to how the actual figures are built. I pretty much rambled on as long as I possibly could. Now, one thing I will say, it all comes down to what character you're doing, or if you're making your own character, and it also comes down to the vehicle itself. Again, this special is mostly focused on car bots, so if you decide to do something that's a little heavier than a normal car, You know, that should give you an idea of how to determine what will work, because like I said, a lot of my car bots are mostly muscle cars or sports cars. Occasionally I will do trucks and vans, but like I said, most of my car bots are usually some kind of sporty two-door vehicle. Now for Cliff Jumper here, I built him more or less out of convenience. So I was talking about the shoulders earlier. I did use the same piece for that I used for the elbow for the shoulders as well. So go ahead and pry that out. So that's how that works. If you don't have the Speed Champions fenders, you can also use more traditional fenders like this one here, and you can just plug them in just like that. I am using a wider wheel, so that's why it looks the way it does. And it'll still work, it'll still function. I may need to swap out that wheel because it's a little too wide and it's a little loose. It's kind of grinding on that fender, but that's a personal problem. I guess if you wanted to, you could also do this. You get one of these pieces, and then you take that pin from earlier, and then just, you could also use that as well, and you could get some rotation out of that. Again, this piece is very versatile. The only problem is it's not going to be completely flush because, again, there's that little stupid nub, and you could shave it off if you wanted to, but the whole point of this is I'm trying to do things legit without modifying pieces or painting them or doing anything of the sort. So there's another way you could do it. If you don't have fenders like this, I also have fenders like this. Now these fenders, they're a newer piece, but the good thing about fenders like this is that you get a lot more to build with, at least for your ground. Now these are better for like older style pickup trucks or wide bodies, as I covered. Again, referring back to the Supra for this demonstration. I have a whole bunch of these too if you guys want me to review these kind of cars, and I got plenty of them. Trust me, I don't just collect Transformers and Legos. I collect literally everything that I like. Again, a lot of these methods are very basic. There's really not much to them. Anyone can do them if you have the parts to do so. But yeah, for this fender, I'm going to demonstrate how you can do it with this piece too. Now, if you want to, actually here, this might be better. Okay, it's not the right piece, but it'll pretty much get my, yeah, this one's weird. I don't know where, yeah, it should be more something like that. Just a normal, like, you know, block with the hole in it. What you can also do, let's grab another block. We'll use this. It doesn't have to look right, it just has to be flush. You could also stack them like that so that you can still have your wheels. You get a wheel actually. You plug that in and it still works. Okay, obviously this wheel is too big, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So that's one way you could do it. It should be more flush, like I said, demonstration purposes. Now you don't have to use Speed Champions wheels if you don't have them. There are alternatives. Let's give Kit his wheel back. Where did this come from? Oh, right here. Okay, there we go. Give him his wheel back. You can do what I did with Strong Arm and make these kind of pseudo, like, wide wheel, like they're small but wider. So how these work, these are very simple to make, and they're actually very effective. I might start using these a lot more because it's more effective for limitations and parts, because these Speed Champions wheels are very hard to get a hold of because Speed Champion sets are very expensive. So these more common Lego fenders are also a good alternative. And they do have short versions of these too. So if your car doesn't have long fenders, you can also use these short versions. A lot of Speed Champion sets will come with extra style rims. So what I like to do, so the most common Lego wheel you'll find is something like this. Now these are very common. You know, very easy to come by. You know, most Lego car sets or trucks or any vehicle will have them. More sports car and race car oriented sets will have wheels like this, which are double-sided, which is very convenient, depending if you want two different rim styles, front and back, if you're into that kind of like drift car sort of thing. So here's one that I already put together. Now the good thing about this, it's actually very easy to put together, because if you have wheels like this, these little smaller rims, and you have a piece like this, these are really convenient. They are a little hard to come by, but they are becoming a little more common. Somebody's vacuuming in the other room, and it's starting to piss me off. Anyway, you plug that in, then you grab your tire. Actually, first, yeah, grab your tire. You can fold that on there, and it has just enough grip to hold it in place. Then you grab your rim piece, and you put a little stud on there to kind of give it a way to align itself. You push that in, flush it out, and there you go. You can still use rims, but at a more accessible scale. Again, this is a darker rim. It's harder to see. I'm sorry about that, but at least now, if you don't have Speed Champion style parts, you can use more common ones, like this. So you just plug that in, and there you go. Your wheels will stick out just a little bit, but again, it's just something you're going to have to live with. And again, you can use these with either types of fenders. You can use full fenders, or you can use half fenders, which are the ones I prefer to use for like muscle cars and stuff, or trucks or off-road vehicles. So it'll work with either one, and it'll roll just fine. It may rub a little bit, but when you have all four wheels on the ground, it'll be fine. So that's one alternative you can do. Take one last look at strong arm's upper half. Another thing you have to worry about is clearance, because I like to put layers so that when I rotate it around, the arm actually, looks coherent. But again, that's all based on your builds and what parts you have available. Again, my goal here on this channel is to inspire people to build their own designs and do what they want to do. Before we go, we're going to get to the last subject at hand, and that's the heads. So let's get to that too. So now the heads are kind of the signature, I guess, piece of my designs, the style that I go for. Because I like to do, like I said, I've said it 1,000 times already, kind of a Mega Man sort of like kind of anime style. It's what I like. So what you're gonna want, so the heads are naturally going to be 3 wide. So that's one thing you need to account for when you're dealing with the heads, because that's kind of how I got that look. It took me trial and error to figure out how I wanted that to look, but again, you don't have to use this head design. You could just build the basic body and then just do a different head design if you want to, but this is what I like to do, and this is how I like to do it. So again, it's usually 3 wide. Every head I do is different to a degree, at least how it's constructed, but this is the most basic way to put it together. So because a lot of Transformer characters have helmets, I use pieces like this to kind of fill out the sides. So that kind of acts as like the side guard to the helmet. A good example here would be Strong Arm, since the helmet, I guess, side shields are there. Let me see if I can find a better example. Here's Cliff Jumper. Here we go. So yeah, the sides there kind of fill out the helmet, so it kind of adds more color to it, so it's not just completely flat. So there's Cliff Jumper. Now the actual face itself, there's many ways to do it. If you want a more rounded off face, which is the ones that I like the most, but I don't always, you can use these kind of I guess sort of angular sort of tile pieces. I don't really know what they're called. I don't really know the names of a lot of pieces. I'm just kind of going based off of what they look like. So you can use that for the sides, and then you can also, where did that piece go? Okay, I couldn't find a particular piece that I'm looking for, so there's one way you could do it. Here, we'll just ignore the upper half. So you could do it like that if you want to give them a nose, depending on how the helmet's designed. And of course you do want to color match it depending on the character, of course. So that's one way you could do it. So normally it would be flush, and then there would be the face right there, which that by itself doesn't look too bad. So it kind of has that rounded kind of edge to it, where, kind of how the chin slopes downward, depending on how blocky your character is, like, the kind of character they are, like whether they're very like angular or brute or whatever it may be. Now, if you don't have access to, 3 wide like that, that's also why I brought this piece in. You can also do it like this. Put these together like that. You can do a face like that. Now, granted, you do have that ugly seam in the middle, but I mean, it's Legos. You kind of have to expect that. For eyes, so here's one thing to keep in mind. If you have a very dark character, If you use clear, it won't look as good because the plastic behind it is kind of what basically gives it life, for lack of a better word. So because this is a very light shade of gray, a normal like clear yellow piece like this would work just fine. So that could work too. Now, what I like to do to kind of differentiate them a bit, when I do fembots, or female characters in general, I like to use circular parts for the eyes. So I watch a lot of anime, so naturally one thing that they'll do, at least some studios will do, male characters will have more angular eyes, female characters will have softer, more rounded eyes. So that's kind of my inspiration for that. And again, there's many ways you could do this. Now, one other way that I like to do the faces, this is the more basic way to do it. I'm using clear just because it's all I have at hand at the moment. Now, one way you could do it is like this. Now, you'll notice the face looks really long and it kind of looks like they have a giant nose. If you don't like the look of that and you still want to incorporate the helmet, so because it is just a flat tile, you could just put this piece over. It's a little ridge piece, and it'll kind of give it some definition. So there's one way you could do it if you don't have the half piece. So you could still use a normal tile and then just cover it up with like a normal like slope piece like this. And then you just add on to it. You build your helmet however you want to do it. There's many ways to do the helmet, but I'm just kind of using examples here. So here's a more angular way you could do it. Like I said, not all my figures are built the same because I like to, depends on the character and how I do them. So there's some other examples. I mean, like, again, it all depends on the design. But that's about as much as I got in terms of, so yeah, here's kind of how I differentiate them. So this is female, this is male. Not all of them are the same, so, you may have a character that's female, but is much, like, I guess, more squared off and not as rounded or doing, more generic shapes. But again, it's all up to your build. It's all whatever you want to do. Like, a good example here is Strong Arm. I mean, even though I did still kind of maintain the more feminine midriff, the rest of her is fairly, like, chunky and kind of solid looking. So, again, it all depends on your builds and how you do them. Before we go, we're going to get to one last thing that we need to look at, because I forgot to mention this earlier. Your windshield and your hood. Now for hoods, like I said, I usually like to use windshields like this, especially for older cars, because older cars are more squared off. Again, it's just hinges that go onto the main torso. For Cliff Jumper, his is solid, it doesn't move at all, but that's just because the build allowed me to do so. So, let me take one of his arms off. Sorry, buddy, I gotta do this. So that's one other way you could do it. You could make the windshield part of the main body so it doesn't have to move, and then only make the hood move so you can still, reveal the head and all that. Again, there is a lot of leftover that hangs off the back of these things, but again, it's all part of the aesthetic that I go for. So naturally, this is kind of the after effects of, building them this way. But again, I mean, it's what I like and it's how I do it. So, again, they're very simple, very basic figures, but I just kind of like them because of the, I guess, cutesy nature of them, but that's just what I prefer. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's one other way you can do the face. You can kind of use one of those middle pieces and put a slope if they have like a really big chin or something. Again, it all depends on how you want your character to look and how you do the build. But now that I've pretty much covered everything, there's really not much left to do other than to, well, start building. So we'll use my little buddy here as a guinea pig. We'll put them together. But yeah, let's, oh, here it is. But yeah, oh, well, yeah, that's the thing with Legos. They're not the sturdiest thing in the world, but again, they're Legos. They go back together, and it's all hunky-dory. So yeah, because my car is based on a station wagon, that's why his legs are so freaking massive. Rotate that around. That is one other way you could do it too. You could use that triple three-way piece and then use the middle so that your characters can either have like crotch armor or I guess rear skirt armor. It does move, it's on a ball joint, so you can do that too. So like I said, I've covered everything I possibly could. That's really all that goes into building my basic car bots. Again, jets are a little different. They're a little more complicated and require a lot more, I guess, ingenuity, because it all depends on what kind of jet they're based on, or, you know, again, it's all based on whatever your design is supposed to be, or whatever the design of the character you're making. And it all comes down to what you have on hand. Like I said, all my figures are different because I use whatever I have available, at least to a degree, but aesthetically, they're all very similar. And that's just kind of the charm of it, you know? It's just why I like to do them this way. And, you know, they're very simplistic, yes, but the transformation, while it is an important part of it, it's not the entirety of it, because at the end of the day, it's all about the aesthetic and character itself, so it is what it is. I'm probably going to upload this in 2 parts, so anyway, I hope this helps you to some degree. I hope you enjoyed watching this and learning what goes into the process of building these things. And that's about all I got. So thanks for watching.
Hallelujah! Another soul saved!